How do you resist evil? We all know we live in evil times. There's no trust. We voted for a president and yet somehow still did not get him. Voices are silenced. We're stuck under like this. It's a managerial class of evil. Think Lumbergh from Office Space, slowly grinding people down. More and more intrusive, more and more controlling. You can't travel, you can't go outside, you must wear 1 mask, now 2 masks, now up to 4 masks. Well, you've heard of this GameStop story by now because it's the biggest story in the nation. Now, the early 30-year-olds, I was a little old for it, but my brother has great memories of GameStop. He would take his old video games and sell them down at the store and at GameStop and get a bunch of money and buy a new game. And then you were home, you had a new game. It was, this is so fun. People love GameStop. Well, brick and mortar stores have been taking it on the chin. And so this hedge fund comes along and says, well, that's probably going to go out of business. We'll start shorting it. And what shorting just means is they make money as it goes down. So these billionaires are crushing this company. A group of people on Reddit saw this and said, I don't like that. And they banded together and began buying shares, driving up the price, costing the billionaires money. Now, and think of the insanity of this bet from game theory. It's one of the ways yes, the market is manipulated and controlled. Let's say I've got a coin. Heads, we'll play $100 a toss. Heads, you get $100 back, so you've doubled your money. But tails, you're going to lose at least your $100 up to all of the money you ever had or ever will have. There's no limit to your potential loss. Nobody would play that game, right? Unless it was already safe. Because here's the thing. Most investments, you just lose 100% if you're wrong, right? You go down to 0, worst case scenario. But if you're shorting a stock, you can lose 1,000%, you can lose 10,000%. If you had shorted Microsoft when it first came out, you'd be in debt for probably billions of dollars. Because you'd have to buy, every time it goes up and split and goes up and split, you'd have to buy all that back at massively expensive prices. And so that's what these Redditors took advantage of. And look at the reasons why. This is for you, Dad. Redditor shares heartbreaking reason for destroying short sellers. A new class of activist investors harnesses the power of crowdsourcing to crush short sellers, betting on the demise of ailing companies. A David versus Goliath narrative quickly emerged, now with sympathetic billionaires joining the cause. So this Justin's son, look at this. I'll be buying $10 million of GameStop tonight from Asia when the market opens. Man, these people have a lot of money, but it's also not about the money. See, that's what gets the managerial class. It's like that Simpsons. Not about more important than money. Who is this? Well, it's about virtue. How do you resist evil? You resist evil with virtue. Let's kind of go through this and I'll tell you what I mean. So, this is one Redditor who goes by the name Space Peanut, has a very personal reason for tossing their mash onto the pier. This is why he is buying GameStop. This is for you, Dad. I remember when the housing collapse sent a torpedo through my family. My father's concrete company collapsed almost overnight. My father lost his home. My uncle lost his home. I remember my brother helping my father count pocket change on our kitchen table. That was all the money he had left in the world. While this was happening in my home, I saw hedge funders literally drinking champagne as they looked down on the Occupy Wall Street protesters. I will never forget that. My father never recovered from that blow. He fell deeper and deeper into alcoholism and exists now as a shell of his former self, waiting for death. This is all the money I have, and I'd rather lose it than give them what they need to destroy me. Taking money from me won't hurt me because I don't value it at all. I'll burn it all down just to spite them. Now, I was watching Jeremy from The Quartering covering this, and he said, I will take my GameStop shares to my grave. Like, you can't, Lumbergh can't manage his way out of this. There's no micromanagement. And because it's something bigger, it's something more important than just getting another dollar. And, and people have seen their institutions crushed by this globalist managerial class. It's like, no, we liked having a constitutional republic. That's what we wanted. We wanted you to represent us. And this is going around. I love watching this billionaire cry because he realizes the nature of the game is changed. Mr. Obvious, pretty good YouTuber's got this up.
I think it's kind of obvious people can not only see the emotion on your face, but hear it in your voice when you talk about this, Lee. Why?
I care.
I care.
That's it.
That's it.
Why are we still here?
I believe in a progressive tax system. Yeah, what they believe is handing you peanuts and letting you survive on that. No, how about we have an open and free market? How about we have open and free elections? How about we get to have free speech? How about we have our rights and you don't get to control outcomes? And of course, Robinhood, TD Ameritrade, who I had to email telling them, look, you don't get to say what stocks I get to buy or sell. Because they intervened on behalf of the hedge fund. They froze trading. But this is significant, right? Because the people are discovering their power. And it's not going out in the streets waving cardboard, right? That's just stupid stuff so that a sympathetic media can get the framing and the picture right and then make their fake news stories about how outraged everyone is. Don't waste your time with that. This is effective action. Like in defense of the Republic, in resisting evil, you have to take effective action, not symbolic action. This broke the system, or at least gave it a very big black eye. It was a wake-up call they did not want to feel. Look at this. Bed Bath & Beyond stock collapses by 36% after they canceled the MyPillow guy. Well, why? Because the MyPillow guy is pro-Trump. And so people said, we're going to boycott him. And he recounted to WND last May the remarkable transformation in his life through his faith. This isn't about pillows. Man, they put ads and everything. This isn't about pillows. It's about continual punishment of conservative speech. Media Action Network founder Ken LaCorte said in an announcement of the boycott, and we've had enough. Every time we turn around, another conservative has been silenced under false pretenses of hate speech or the most recent offense du jour, and we're fighting back. So you can see, stop promoting cancel, they wrote. You buckled to the pressure, removing MyPillow products because of Mike Lindell's politics. It's un-American. And so conservatives now are taking more effective action. Like, think about Facebook. Facebook, Twitter, they silence the president. And this is the thing. Like, these are sexy. These sort of like bigger actions. But you don't have to do some complex financial transaction or risk your money. Just stop shopping there. Stop going on your Facebook. Like, Facebook keeps censoring me. Well, don't go anymore. Get off the places that hate you and hate the idea of a constitutional republic. If they call it my democracy, quit going to it. Turn off the TV. Like, I know people that can't stand that the football players kneel, and yet they get drunk and watch football every single weekend. Like, you have to turn off the football. You don't like cuties? Cancel the Netflix. Get off the Amazon. I mean, obviously, like, you're going to have to get food. Go to Walmart if you need the food, sure. But be aware. Be aware of where your eyeballs go. Be aware of where your money goes, because this is a tremendous way to resist the evil, the encroachment of anti-American nonsense, the stifling of conservative speech. It's your eyes and it's your money. And there's a new form of activism that is cropping up. Now, we'll see. They're talking about a potential short squeeze, so I put on a little trade, just a small amount, to see if this happens. Because I wouldn't mind turning a couple $1,000s into $100,000 myself. But silver is a very small market, and it's very highly manipulated by one of those big banks. So they're talking about silver. Let's see. Scrutinize SLV, give them next to no benefit of any doubts, as alleged RICO criminal, it's JP Morgan, is supposed to be overseeing its underlying bullion for unsecured shareholders. So supposedly, when you buy this SLV, there's actually physical underlying it. That's probably not the case. And so they're talking about squeezing silver. That would be interesting. That would be something if you start cracking, not just hedge funds, but cracking banks like JP Morgan. For what? Lying. For their opportunistic lying. But there's more to it than that. This runs deeper. I want to look at what virtues we can distill from this. How do you resist the evil that we face in our lifetime here? What do I mean by virtues? Well, in the ancient Greek times, all they could talk about was virtue, the virtue of truth, the virtue of beauty, the virtue of courage. They lived in a society that put these things on a pedestal, not like gauche displays of vulgarity or anything like that, and not being rude or crude or anything like that. Take, for example, in Greek times, if you were a traveler and you came across a household, you could knock on the door, and it was expected by their culture that you would take that traveler in, you would feed them, give them a place to rest, and then they would be safe overnight and send them along their way. Well, there's a particular evil man in a story called the Procrustes, in the story of the bed of Procrustes. And what he did, he had this kind of awkward shaped bed that nobody could fit in. And so he would bring travelers in, and then if they were too short for the bed, he would stretch their legs and stretch their body, torture them, essentially, till they fit in the bed. If they were too tall for the bed, he would cut their legs off till they fit in the bed, and he was considered this figure of incredible evil for those times. Because their culture, because the virtue of these people, you were supposed to respect the traveling man. I can't imagine doing this to someone in my own house, but that was the culture. Just like the gladiatorial games in Rome, like they were this barbaric, like incredible display of disgusting violence. But why did it exist? Well, because people watched it, because they spent their money on it. They glorified violence because that's what they watched. That's what they talked about. That's what they obsessed about. To the point where even some emperors would go fight in the gladiatorial games. Because it was just such a big event for these people. What you watch, what you fund, you get more of. And so instead of focusing on these horrible, like barbaric and ugly sides of human existence, what if you were to focus on the virtues, right? And what do I mean by virtue? Think about like the healing virtue of a plant, or just like I have a mint plant. You dry out the leaves and you crush those leaves up and it releases this pleasant smell. Or if you have an upset stomach and I take some Tums, like those Tums make my stomach feel better. It has a healing virtue. Well, there's these other virtues we saw. I talked about my brother at the beginning of this. He loved GameStop. Well, I'm sure these other Redditors loved GameStop. Well, it was the virtue of a couple of things. One, this shared love that made this possible. For two, a fellowship. They had a community. This is why they constantly try to atomize us. They try to divide us along racial and gender lines. It's why they try to break up the family and disparage the institution of marriage, promote no-fault divorce, and other perversions of what marriage is supposed to mean. Because the family unit is the most powerful government on the face of the earth. The community, the family, love. These things have a virtue in and of themselves. Just like the healing plant, when you consume it, your headache goes away. It's the virtue of the plant. When you have love in your life, when you have a community you can trust, when you have people you know have your back. Like this scheme would not have worked if they couldn't trust each other. See, on Wall Street, this wouldn't have worked because they're all a den of snakes. But on Reddit, these people had a fellowship, right? That's one of the reasons I think Tolkien used the Fellowship of the Ring to fight the evil. The managerial class wanted to dominate everything evil. That's how you resist it. It is you don't resist evil with evil itself. You resist evil with virtue. And I think we're discovering this. This was an incredible national story. Even AOC and Ted Cruz agreed for once. At least they're trying to get ahead of the political train for clout, but whatever. And it's funny, you can see it's already changed hedge fund behavior. Short funds are closing down and saying, well, we're going to find a new way. Like the party's over. That party is over. And I want to emphasize it is not just because these guys are smart, which they obviously are. It is the virtue. It comes down to the individual actions. We all have agency. We all get to decide whether we slide into authoritarianism or we reclaim our constitutional republic. This is the decision of each and every one of us. So when we all stand here and we're pointing and we're like, this is horrible, the American collapse, we don't like this. Yeah, it boils down to virtue. It boils down to courage. It boils down to speaking truth. You have to embody these in your own life every day, whether it is easy or not. Because it is the essence of these virtues, it is the fruits that come of them that, well, have the power to make America great again.